lecture is all about annotating a text. So typically, probably 90% of the time whenever we read something in this class, I'm going to be like, oh yeah guys, don't forget to annotate the text. That's basically what you have to do. You got to read, you got to annotate. And of course, there'll be a collective groan. Somebody will suck their teeth, roll their eyes. Ugh. But hey, I understand it, and I actually think it's probably more of two reasons. A, you really don't know what annotating a text means, and B, you don't know what your teacher wants you to annotate. It's just another academic word that we use in classrooms, but nobody's really ever taught you what annotating a text means. Well, you're in luck, because I'm going to teach you in 4 simple steps. So, basically, annotating a text is all about how you interact with the text. So think about interaction when you are interacting with a person. So you're looking at what the person looks like, how they act, their body language, what kind of accent do they have, how they're dressed, what he or she says, maybe what they even believe in, how they even react to you. And that's essentially what you do when you annotate. You are literally interacting with the text. You're looking at the tone, the mood, themes and patterns, characters, author's point of view, how you feel about the text, how you react or connect with the characters. So annotating is literally you interacting with any text. So in order to learn how to annotate, we got to ask ourselves, annotate why? So what are the purposes of annotating? The number one purpose of annotating is so that you understand the text, or as your teachers say, comprehend the text. A lot of times you never ever want to read something that you just don't understand, or you just come away with it not really knowing what you read, because then you literally wasted 15 to 20 minutes of your life reading something you didn't understand. So the number one purpose of annotating is so that you can understand the text. How do we get to that understanding part? We go to number 2, where we monitor and track changes and progressions in the text. We look to see where, just like in a good movie, the author's doing something right there. I need to pay attention to that. Or, I didn't really like what that character said. I didn't agree with that. Be like, that was a bomb quote the character said right there. I'm going to need to remember that and write that down. You're monitoring and you're tracking the changes and progressions in the text. Then we go to number 3. You identify what you know and what your I don't know. So as you go through the text, you'll be like, oh, I knew that. That's an interesting fact. I didn't know that. I want to learn a little bit more about that. Like, that's a really good statistic maybe I could use in our class discussion. Let me write that down. And then lastly, you want to identify areas of concern or interest. If there's a part you just didn't understand, put a bracket around it so we can talk about it and discuss it further in class. Or if there's just something you really thought was the bomb.com, underline it, highlight it, and say, I really like this, or LOL, or put a smiley face on it. So, how do we annotate? Typically, you've probably heard your teachers use these 3 words: highlight, circle, and underline. And that's great. But tip number 1, you want to do what works for you. So while you may see me modeling, annotating a text the next day in class, you really want to look at what I'm doing and then figure out your own system. Create your own annotation system. I've seen students that annotations are so detailed, they use multicolored pens, different color highlighters to mean different things. They literally have their own system. They figured out what works for them. So there's 4 main things you typically want to annotate. You want to annotate main ideas, themes, or patterns. There may be some days in class where I give you a card and it says main idea, themes, where literally for your annotation, I want you to literally just track the main ideas of the text and then find examples of the main ideas or the themes or the patterns. Sometimes you want to circle or underline or highlight characters and people's names. Not that you won't remember the names, because sometimes we're good at remembering names, but what if the author uses the last name the first name as opposed to the last name in nonfiction, or the character's last name as opposed to the first name. You want to make sure you know who the characters are, because remember, you're interacting and reacting to their actions. 3, vocabulary words. Yes, you already get weekly vocabulary words probably, but sometimes there might be cool sounding words, or words you just can't sound out, or words you're dying to know the meaning of. Go ahead and highlight or underline those. I love the sound of words. I love playing Scrabble, so I'm a geek to the core. So in my annotating, I'm always underlining vocabulary words or cool sounding words. 4th thing you want to try to annotate are important ideas or events. An idea you just think is great, or an idea that's not so great. You maybe want to identify that. You also want to identify key events, major changes in the story. I may ask you to basically plot or outline out the major events in the story. That way you can do that. So you have your choice of highlighting, circling, or underlining. But remember, do what works for you. So, annotate where? So right here, as you can see, we have a diagram of a text. And as you can see, we have different annotations. We have, looks like we have numbers. We have things that have a box around them. Things that are circled with a star, with the comment disagree. Look, we have an LOL. Then we have the word change. Looks like we have a vocabulary word. Then we have something bracketed and other things underlined. I like to think of this as margin madness, where literally you are making connections. You are reacting to the text. Are you surprised about something, happy about something, sad about something? You literally can maybe even put a smiley face on the parts where you're happy, sad, upset, surprised. Use those emojicons. Use the text language that we have come accustomed to in social media to your advantage. Sometimes it can work in academic settings. In Margin Madness, you want to track and outline the story as it changes, as it grows, as it progresses. And you can do that a number of different ways. And then maybe you also want to track a character. Sometimes I may give you the assignment of tracking a specific character, and all your job is to do is to track that character's movements. Nothing else. Just stay on that character. Other times, I may look for you to give you a theme, and you have to locate important passages related to that theme. Now, sometimes you may be reading something, and it's something you really remember, and you knew it was on page 47, but the next day in class, you completely forgot it. To avoid that, put a bracket around the passages you think are the most important. That way, you'll remember them in the class discussion. Maybe also you want to put a bracket around things the author wants us to know, that you feel in your opinion they want us to know. Maybe the author wants us to know that 68% of writers misspell the word your. Maybe the writer wants us to know that. But really the best part about annotating is that you're working off of the work smarter, not harder. A lot of times I'll give you an assignment the next day in class after we read something, and if you've annotated properly, you've literally done all the hard work the night before. You've done all the hard work up front. That way you can easily locate things. You can locate the vocabulary words. You can locate where the characters have changed. You can locate your opinions. You can locate your reactions. You can locate basically the tone, the mood, the theme, all of that. Lastly, you want to ask questions. You want to give an opinion, because at the end of the day, we're reading to form an opinion. We're reading to make a connection. So, vent number 2, and I'm mentioning it now. You do all of this margin madness, because when you just highlight without writing any notes, all you're doing is coloring. So, if you want to color, we can get you a page where you can actually color, but when you annotate a text and you only highlight, that's just called coloring. The last thing I want to say about annotating is create your own system, as I said before. You want to develop a system that's going to work for you and your style of learning. The most important about annotating a text is you are interacting with it. I'm not giving you my opinion. Your peer is not giving you their opinion. It's your opinion, how you're interacting and how you're reacting to the text. So, happy annotating.